let's talk about the worst reading month I've had in 3 years. Hi everyone, it's so good of you to join me. I'm Emily from To Read Her Heart, and June was a bit of a downer. So not only in terms of quality, but quantity. I'm not the most popular girl on YouTube, but I enjoy making content, and June was the first full month of doing that. I gave it about 75% of my free time, which is very small. I work full-time and I'm a mom of a toddler, so that left me not so much extra time to read. The books that I did read were disproportionately not great. I was planning on combining June with July, but then I decided let's just let June be its own monster. And July's reading wrap-up can be safe in August, separate from June. Sad June. So we'll start with DNFs, and then we'll go lowest to highest rating. We'll end on a relatively positive note, so it's not the end of the world. Hopefully you'll find some good reads, and maybe even some reads to avoid, like me. We'll start with Springborn, first DNF by Carrie and Noble. We're in 1880s Pennsylvania coal mining town. A barren couple is really wanting a child. They're finally gifted one, mysteriously, by an old lady who hands this baby over in a basket. They don't question it, I guess. Maybe that's normal for them. And they raise her with all the love they can give her. They're overjoyed to have her in their lives until maybe like her 12th birthday, when she sprouts antlers. And then suddenly she's demon spawn, and they treat her with hate and disdain. And she puts up with it. She's the baby that's now a young woman, thinking very little of herself and having little hope for the future. All the while, a community of people just like her are monitoring her for her safety, and finally intervene at a certain point to take her out of that situation, and so she can be with her people. And then those people flee for their lives because of this hostile group that they heard was chasing after them. I DNF'd on that journey of escape. I like the fairy tale vibes and the whimsy, the environment, even though it's summer and this was very winter set. It was still enough to capture my imagination. The female main lead, she's a bit dull, and the romance was superficial, so I lost interest in it. The parents, they were supposed to have been Christian, of course, even though their actions proved that they weren't entirely devoted to the practices of Christianity and what it means to be a real Christ follower. And it was kind of a small point, but it was still disappointing. I'm tired of Christ being misrepresented, and I know we all fall short. It's a very sad reality that we don't all live how we ought to when we say that we're Christian. It's just, I get sick of it being depicted almost all the time in fiction, at least secular fiction. And so it's just all these small things kind of added up. But then the story itself was lacking something. It was like depth, soul, life. I'm not sure. I lost interest. It wasn't something I wanted to finish, so I didn't. Dead number 1. Dead number 2 is Incendiary by Zoraida Córdova. You might remember this from my unhaul. This book was the exact opposite of Springborn in that it was an intoxicatingly passionate listen between the storyline, the narration, the characters. I was drawn in, and I had to stop because of content. It got to be too much. It was pretty intense already, but then it was in short succession, and I didn't feel comfortable continuing, which is unfortunate because that Latina fire was captured so well in this book, especially if you decided to listen to it. The narrator is able to pronounce things properly with a Spanish accent, so it was very immersive. Just a bummer. The contents for all of these books will be in the description. There's a big old paragraph for Incendiary. You can use your discernment, decide whether or not you want to read it for yourself, but I encourage you not to, just to keep your heart holy. Alright, now to the books that I did finish. We'll go to Dance of Steel, Book 3 in the Steel and Fire 5-book series by Jordan Rivet. You'll likely remember this from my May reading wrap-up, Books 1 and 2. Book 1 I'll briefly describe just to remind you the storyline and not to give away spoilers for Book 3 in case you're interested. So Book 1, Duel of Fire. In the peaceful mountaintop kingdom of Vertigon, ambitious duelist Dara dreams of escaping her family's lantern shop by becoming a professional swordswoman. But when she's assigned to train the carefree Prince Civ, she uncovers a dangerous conspiracy that threatens both his life and the kingdom's fragile peace. So I love books 1 and 2. Book 3 was... this is dud number 3, I guess, if you count the DNFs. I gave this 3.25 stars. I would liken this to dry swallowing a horse pill. A long, painful, arduous process, but necessary to move forward, to heal. And I just felt like nothing happened in this book. It's a 14-hour audiobook. We got introduced to water magic, which is cool. I'm looking forward to going deeper into that into book 4, which will hopefully turn this train wreck around. But I already knew going into it that Dara and Civ were going to be separated. And yet, when it happened, I didn't know it was going to hurt the story so badly. And Civ put all this guilt on himself and self-pity, and you can only hear so much before you're like, move on, please move on. He endured a lot, so it was understandable, at least at the beginning, but then it got to be like, can we sing a new song? If book 4 doesn't improve, I don't know if I can finish the series. And I was liking it so much, so that was a real bummer. I made myself finish that book. If it wasn't a series I was interested in, it would have been a DNF. I don't normally continue on with books that I dislike or anticipate rating lower than 4 stars. If it's rated lower than 4 stars, it's probably because of content, or I made myself finish it, but because it wasn't that terrible to begin with, it just wasn't great. But this book, 3.25 stars, that's really low for me. It's definitely a middle book, like all the reviews said. At first I didn't believe them, but then I hit that point and I was like, this is what people meant. I'm so reluctant to talk about this next book. I don't know if I'm embarrassed or what. I made such a fuss about it. I brought it back from the DNF graveyard. It's my zombie read for Summerleen, and it was just okay. It was just okay. If it wasn't for the audiobook, I might have DNF'd it again, to be honest. The Huntress by Carrie Cotten, I give it 3.5 stars. That might have been generous. But the audiobook was very impressive, and the voice actors really gave it their all, and the sound production team, all the sound effects and the skill. It was pretty impressive for a standard audiobook. When it comes to the story, I'll give you my little summary. After their people are betrayed and driven into hiding, Queen Serene is determined to protect the last of the Picts from ever suffering again. When she rescues Duncan, the unexpected heir to the very kingdom that wronged her people, Both must confront painful legacies and impossible choices that could reshape the future of their nations. So I first DNF'd because the story was a little bit dreary, and the dialect that the author put in the dialogue was difficult for me to follow. It's Scottish. It's very different from my day-to-day conversations. So it took me out of the story whenever I had to try and figure out what they were actually saying every time they opened their mouths. But listening to it was a big improvement. The narrators can put on a Scottish accent for the dialogue portions. And so when they first started speaking out, I immediately thought, if you could change your fate, would you? If you know, you know. Brave didn't stick in my head the whole time. Merida's face vanished shortly after the story started, but my initial reaction was Merida and Brave. So the book starts out with Serene and Duncan meeting in a tent, trying to decide if they should join forces to go against this common enemy that is going to attack Duncan's kingdom, and consequently we'll get to Serene's as well. And then the author skillfully takes us back in time to when both characters were younger, their dual perspectives, and we slowly go through each event that ultimately caused these two kingdoms to become enemies. So we get that background, and then we finally meet at the beginning again. I think that was well done, and I appreciated it. However, when the two characters decide to join forces, I wasn't quite as invested anymore. The romance, if that's what you call it, it was mostly one-sided. It was confusing. And Serene, for the most part, you're given this impression that she's the most self-sacrificing person that you've ever met. And you're told this constantly, and I'm not so sure that we're shown it very much. So I'm left to trust the feelings of nearly everyone around her that's ever met her, who instantly loves her. And it left me wondering why. So I wasn't quite convinced that she was the best person who ever lived. And the devotion of Duncan to her for this, or partially because of this, it felt a little bit unbelievable, and their relationship progressed very oddly, and their backgrounds left them with these mindsets that constantly made them get in their own way, especially when it came to how they related to each other. It was very frustrating. I felt like we couldn't move ahead. We kept trying to go back to where we were at the beginning when they were enemies, and even before that, whenever a character tried to reconcile, it's like the other one took them both 10 steps back, and for what reason, I don't know. It wasn't a terrible read, but like I said, I think the audiobook is what kept me in the story and willing to finish it. And then I have this lovely book. Oh, what's that? You can't see the cover. Well, I plan on doing a dedicated review for it. It's not really a mystery. If you're friends with me on Goodreads, you already know what it is, more than likely. But for the rest of you, I'll just keep you in suspense, and we can look forward to seeing what I have to say about this book. I gave it 4 stars. It was pleasant, and I'm excited to share more of it with you later on. And then we have the last book. See, not very many books, guys. We're already at the end of the list. But we have Soulmark, book 1 in the Soulmark Duology by J.J. Fischer. I gave this 4.5 stars, and it might have been a little bit higher if it wasn't for the content. Not explicit, but still highlighting the depravity of man. Let me tell you about the background and you'll see why it made sense in context. It's just not super fun to read. After being condemned for an accidental killing, Sela is exiled to the prison island of Azazel, where those deemed soulless are sent to atone for others' sins. As Overseer Caleb begins to question the justice of the system and his growing feelings for Sela, the two must survive a brewing rebellion while uncovering the dark truth behind Azazel itself. So we've got nautical pirate island vibes. And because this is an island of criminals, we're going to have a ton of behavior that's less than wholesome going on. Even though there's good people, they're still surrounded by filth and depravity. So let me start by saying J.J. Fischer can write. And when I finished this book, I learned that she wrote it in 6 weeks. Is that impressive or what? And I was hooked from the beginning. J.J. Fischer can write such realistic characters. I feel like any one of them can come off the page and I could meet them on the street. They each have a depth that draws me in. And in this book, at least, while they experienced hardship, it was not an inordinate amount. I didn't feel like she was torturing them to evoke some kind of feeling from me and manipulate my emotions to make me more sympathetic towards them. So this book has allegory, and at first I was uncomfortable with the bitterness that I felt towards the God in this book, because I was like, isn't Fischer a Christian? Like, why does this God in this book condone or enforce these terrible behaviors? If he's supposed to represent our real God, I don't want to feel this way towards him. These are evil, dark things. Sela's right. He's not worthy of worship if he supports these behaviors. This human sacrifice system where innocent young people are shipped off to this island forever forgotten, left to their own devices, fending for their survival. And thankfully that's cleared up. It wasn't an accurate representation of God. It was behavior of man that was applied to God. And the people of the religious order, Caleb belonging to them, the male lead, he has a brain and was questioning the system as well, trying to get to the truth of the matter. And so you see his struggle in this. Sela's bitter. Sela's the one that questioned his goodness because of these actions. And Caleb questioned it for the same reasons, except instead of being resentful about it, he was confused and troubled and tried to pursue the truth, get to the bottom of it. And he's under pressure by the higher ups to fall in line with the system and what they tell him is the truth, or suffer punishment for it. And so the characters must decide for themselves who is God and if they should follow him. It's like I was saying before, while the characters are diverse and unique, the plot is twisty, and the themes and allegory are rich and poignant. There's just so much content, and I have it in the description so you can take a look for yourself. I already read book 2 in July this month, and the content did me over. I'll tell you more about it. Stay tuned. But as for this book, the author represented man well in our sinful nature, and she did it vaguely, but there was quite a bit of it. I heard June was a disappointing month for a lot of people, and I wonder if that was the same for you. And if so, what was your worst read? If not, what was your best? Share with me whatever you want. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a great day. Bye.